Follow these guys, right?
Yeah.
There ain't nothing else to do. We can't ride up on the side. Gotta hope it gets better up here. Big bump. I mean, if you put it in four-wheel drive, you might can ride to the side some and stay up on it. Then go and hit it. Just hit the bump. We rolled up to the Angola border around 3:20, knowing we had to get to the DRC side of the border well before 4 o'clock because the border closes at 4. And even though we were just checking out of Angola, they continued the slow pace that they set at the first border this morning. Oh, it was really painful how slow they moved, but you can't rush them because that'll just slow them down. You got to go through the process. But I think they were moving and writing all the information down truly in slow motion. We were able to get out of there and get to the DRC side just in time. We pulled in, we went into immigration, filled out our forms. They checked our visas and all that sort of stuff. Then we went across the street to get our car paperwork stamped in. That went really smooth. And then everyone told us we were done and we were leaving. But they came running, chasing us down right before we left the actual border area. We didn't know what was going on. We were backed up, turned around, and pulled back up to the immigration area. It was a little strange. We've never had anything like that happen. But they had decided they wanted to look inside of the van for an inspection. So, of course, they're allowed to do that. We opened up the doors, and the immigration guy saw the cats. Now, no one in West Africa has cared one bit about the kitty cats or their paperwork or anything. But this is the first time since we were leaving Spain and getting on the ferry that anyone has asked for pet paperwork. Of course, we had it. I pulled it out. I handed it to them. A minute or two later, we were checked out and on our way. They came in, looked in some of the cabinets. Routine stuff. Just was weird that we got turned around and brought back like that. But then we were free to go. We left the border zone, and we had been told that this was a sand track. But this was a very interesting sand track. We were following the semis, so we knew we could make it. But the problem was the tire ruts on each side were beat down so much that the center of the road was really high. And there were times that our engine parts would actually rub up on the dirt or hit the dirt, or, I mean, it was really not good. But it was sugar sand, really soft sand. So if Curt tried to ride up on one side or the other to avoid hitting that mound in the middle of the road, it just didn't work, even with four-wheel drive. It was a tough few miles. we made it through that part, and then we came up on a road tax zone. So here in the DRC, apparently you pay a road tax instead of paying tolls scattered throughout the country. We had to pay $75 US. We tried to pay with kwanzas because we had heard you could do that. Kwanza is Angola money. Now, we are in the DRC, but we do not have any DRC money. And the policemen were really just not giving a good exchange rate on the kwanzas. We're being a little bit, I don't want to call it corrupt, because, you know, they don't have to accept a foreign country's money, but they were really putting it to Curt, and Curt had been driving these crazy roads, and I think he would even tell you he had reached a little bit of a grumpy stage. So things got a little tense there at the road tax. We ended up playing with a $100 US bill, which made everybody happy, and they were able to give us change, and we were on our way. So our tolls are paid. We shouldn't have to worry about any more tolls, except for maybe at a few bridges where they have special tolls. And then the dirt road continued. And what happens here, guys, is Google, or all maps, any map system, wants to take you a certain way. And we had seen warnings on iOverlander and read lots of reviews from fellow travelers that whatever you do, do not follow the directions of any online map services. It will take you down roads that you will get stuck on. Those roads are ruined, and they have since created new roads. The problem is those roads do not show up on any kind of a satellite. So you're literally just winging it. We'd come up to an intersection and not know which way to go. But luckily for us, there were a lot of semi-trucks coming and going on this road. And there was one that was kind of with us the whole time, pointing us the right way, blowing the horn if we went the wrong way. Just really, really super helpful. And we followed the dirt tracks until we just all of a sudden appeared in this town. And this town is where our campsite is. We need to weave through some more dirt roads to figure out how to get to it. It is a hotel on the beach that is owned by a Dutch man and allows overlanders to camp in the parking lot. Now, we had to go almost into dark, but we made it just as the sun was setting, so it never got all the way dark on us, which is really good, because the DRC is somewhere you really don't want to be driving at night. And we were super happy that as soon as we pulled in, we could see that this was a place that was going to work and that it had a restaurant, because we are tired, and trying to cook and clean up is not something we wanted to do tonight. So we're going to walk up here, listen to the waves crash, and I can hear music from here, so it seems like a happy place, and we're going to have some dinner. And then we will be getting a really early start in the morning, because the goal is to drive all the way through the DRC and cross back into Angola. That is ambitious, but the DRC is not the kind of country you want to spend a lot of time in. It's not the safest country on the continent, that is for sure. Good morning. It's day 2 here in the DRC, and if you're new to our channel, I want to welcome you. And I want to let you know that Curt and I have been living full-time and traveling full-time all around the world in this Mercedes Sprinter van for the past 6 years. And if you've been with us recently, you know we've just tackled some of the toughest overlanding we've ever experienced as we made our way through West Africa. But for those of you that are just joining, you may not know that Curt and I are no strangers to venturing into places that most people would never consider going. We've driven through countries like El Salvador, Nicaragua, Colombia, and that's just to name a few. We've always found that even in places that the media portrays as too dangerous, it just usually isn't. In fact, we've completely fallen in love with some of the world's most scariest places. This video is going to be a bit different though, because in this video, we are driving through a country that really is known for internal conflict, for danger, and is constantly in the news for being a perilous place. And our usual in-depth research confirms that. This is, in fact, an extremely dangerous country. The United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia all have it listed as a do not travel for the entire country. We're talking about the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a massive country in Central Africa, encompassing a lot of the thick jungles on this continent. And the central region and the eastern region is where most of the conflict and danger occurs. We're talking about armed conflict, violent crime, high risk of kidnapping, and this is all particularly in the eastern and central regions, where millions have been displaced from conflict this year alone. So we will try to get video shots when we can, but our main focus will be just to get through the DRC without any problems, not taking video. So with that, let's get to it. The landscape here is incredibly complex. The most prominent conflict right now is between the Congolese army, known as FARDC, FARC, and the M23 rebel group, who have actually been seizing major cities recently, like Goma and Bukavu in the North and South Kivu regions. And they continue to push westward, which is towards us. The M23 is reportedly backed by Rwanda, though Rwanda denies this, adding another layer of geopolitical tension. But they're not the only threat. We also have the ADF, or the Allied Democratic Forces, an Islamic group with declared ties to ISIS, known for brutal massacres, especially in the North Kivu and Ituri regions. They've actually ramped up attacks while the FARC is busy with the M23. And then there's also the Codeco, CODECO, in Ituri, a powerful militia born from ethnic conflict, creating even more localized violence. Beyond these, there are dozens of smaller Mai-Mai militias, which are scattered across the east, often fighting amongst themselves or aligning with different sides. All of this contributes to the extreme instability of the DRC and its catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Now, you guys may be wondering why in the world we're driving through this country. And the answer is, we have to drive through this country to get to the southern parts of Africa. The good news is, we do get to drive along the west side of the country, an area that's usually without conflict. But recent uprisings and new political movements have brought the danger closer and closer to the area where we need to drive, closer to this coastal route along the west. If there was any way to drive around this country, believe me, we would be doing it. Now, there is a ferry that we could have taken, but it is notoriously unreliable. It takes you from Cabinda, the little enclave of Angola, to the main part of Angola. It has no schedule, no organization, no online presence. We've read where people show up and sometimes it's operating, sometimes it's not. It's known for long-term breakdowns. We've heard of overlanders being stuck in Cabinda for weeks and weeks, just trying to find out when they can take this ferry. And with the visa restrictions, waiting that long is just not an option. Another layer of difficulty for the ferry for us is how large our vehicle is. So even if the ferry is running, it may be full of locals or it may be full of freight, and there just literally might not be room for us, which would mean we would have to wait until the next ferry, whenever that would be. Now, we do know people do successfully take this ferry, but they're in much smaller vehicles like Land Rovers or even motorcycles. So when you're telling us that why didn't you take the ferry, you need to know that for a large vehicle like ours, a lot of the normal transportation through West and Central Africa is just not an option for us. Now, if you watched our last video, you know that for one of the first times ever, we reached out to the United States State Department for help. We needed help with our visa expiring and being broken down and unable to leave the country. And it was really nice to be able to get in touch with someone and talk to them. But the official advisories for the DRC also warn of extremely limited consular assistance, and there will be no help outside of the capital. meaning if something goes wrong, we are largely on our own and would not be able to reach out to our embassy for help. That's just one more layer of what makes driving through the DRC such an intense ordeal. We've been driving for several hours through the curvy mountain roads, and we have had to stop on the side of this rural road to refuel. When we prepped our van for West Africa several months ago when we were still back in Spain, the extra fuel tanks and the storage rack on the back were a last-minute thing that Curt literally decided to do and added on, like in our last 1 or 2 days there at the Airbnb in the south of Spain. And it has turned out to be one of our most used add-ons, the thing I am most thankful for. I don't know what we would have done through this West Africa route without these 4 small green gas cans. So Curt has got us fueled up. A few locals walked by wondering what in the world we were doing. They were kind, there were no issues, but we're back on the road because there is no time for chilling when you're here in the DRC. I wish we could have filmed more for you of that drive, but after the intensity of just driving across most of the DRC, we are finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Our goal today is to make it to the border and leave the DRC, which means we're going to be driving straight through this large city of Matadi. But before we actually enter Matadi, even though we can see it across the river, we have to drive across one of the most iconic and powerful natural wonders in all of Africa, the mighty Congo River. This isn't just any river crossing. The Congo River is the second longest river in Africa, only second to the Nile, but it boasts the second largest discharge volume-wise in the entire world, right after the Amazon. It's truly a force of nature. It's incredibly wide and deep, and as we look out over it as we cross this bridge, you can literally feel its immense power as the water is rushing towards the Atlantic Ocean. And then, just on the other side, awaits the city of Matadi. Now, we had been warned that the traffic in Matadi could be really bad, but it looks like, as we're entering the city, that we may have lucked out. It is a Sunday, and it's also raining. These two things seem to have the streets a little less chaotic, which is a very welcome surprise. And it also gives us a chance to kind of look at the city streets and the surrounding neighborhoods without the normal, crazy crowds of people. Matadi isn't just a regular city. It's the DRC's chief seaport, a vital gateway connecting this vast country to the rest of the world. Its name, Matadi, actually means stone in the Kikongo tribal language, referring to the rugged, hilly terrain that surrounds it. You can see why. The landscape here is dramatic and carved out of rock.
Close your eyes, hear the voice within, calling. This heavy load got under your skin, hauling. You got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your feelings bottled up inside, heading for a collision in the night. To really live, you gotta die. Breathe in, breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at the colors. got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your fears bottled up inside, heading for collision in the night. To really live, you gotta die.
After the incredible journey we've had through West Africa and now through the DRC, reaching Matadi and seeing the amazing Congo River is a huge milestone for us. It feels like we're finally leaving the harsh parts of this journey behind us, or at least getting much closer to our goal of Southern Africa. But next up is Angola, and we're almost to the border. This is a border known for corruption, so we are not taking any chances here, guys. I know we normally try to film borders for you, but we are turning off all of the cameras, even the dash cam. We don't want to take any chances of giving any border agents or custom agents a reason to be upset with us. So with that, we will see you guys in a few days from the beautiful country of Angola as we leave the DRC behind. Cheers. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really helps us a lot. And if you want to see more of our videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you know when new videos come out. We'll see you guys in a few days from somewhere out here in the world. Cheers.